Hey guys, I'm back with part 2 right now. So, carrying on from where we last left off in part 1, I once again inspected my troops on the Kazakh border, looked at the situation. They were at war with China, so I saw as my perfect opportunity to just seize as much territory as I possibly could. So I reinforced a couple of provinces in the Mongolian area and then invaded, along with declaring war on Pakistan to quickly take them out. And so the invasion of Kazakhstan began, which was mainly help in the fact that it would unite both, the pieces of Mongolia, you could say. Like, it would unite my conquests with mainland Mongolia, or the homeland, as yeah, united with the homeland, straight up, right? Meanwhile, their invasion of China was still going, so like I just decided to take the provinces from that too, which would help me a lot. And I realized that they would most likely be most concentrated with their army over there, and so that would probably be better if I focused some troops there. Anyways, elsewhere, thing was, as you can see, the front line was really jagged. Okay, as you can see, especially in Central Asia, it's really jagged front line. So I wanted to make sure that I could keep the line organized and like properly straight, so that it would not be a really weird invasion where like some troops are behind the lines, some troops are in front, like that sort of thing. I did not want that, right? And so I endeavored to make sure that my lines were proper and maintained. And so that's why initially there wasn't much advance, and I held back sort of. But then after I got them all organized in a line, I started pushing as fast as I could. And I realized that Kazakhstan was soon just like they were just collapsing, mainly because they were being faced with an attack from every side, which is honestly it's hard to defend against on its own. So I can't really say I'm surprised. And then this attack worked to devastating effect, right? And I was able to pretty much invade not only mainland Kazakhstan, but like basically just erode away their empire. And like I even like thing is, one of my main priorities in the east was to cut China off, and I practically did. Oh, wait, I was practically doing that anyways. And of course, because of my invasion, China and like their war with Kazakhstan basically became, well, you guys can assume how it ended. Uh, China seized territory back. I mean, well, not back. Technically, Kazakhstan had annexed that territory, and then they were fighting over with China, but they were basically taking back their old territory. Meanwhile, I had already reached the Kazakh capital at this point, and I was succeeding on every single advance. And so Kazakhstan soon came to an end. Or, well, not soon. Okay, there was a couple more provinces, but all that was left was just these few provinces, especially the ones around India and all. Um, so yeah, and then the ones around India. Okay, thing was they were a part of China. I think yeah, that's why I left them alone. They were occupied provinces. Okay, I left them alone because I didn't want to just like what I wanted to do was I didn't want to just like liberate those territories for China, just do their work for them. What I wanted to do was like take all of Kazakhstan myself. But then the thing was, it didn't let me do that completely. So I was just like, hey, you know what? Why don't we just finish off these provinces as well, before I do the peace deal, and then we do the peace deal. So I finished off those provinces and then annexed everything. Peace deal didn't change much, but I still just annexed everything. But then I decided to let go of some of the, like 1-star provinces, right? Those provinces are pretty much useless. And so what I did was I gave them up and instead decided to just take a bit more, valuable provinces. So I created this weird, as you can see, I created this weird looking border gore right here. Uh, it's a weird looking border gore. But yeah, that war with Kazakhstan went successfully. Of course, this very successful war was quickly followed up by the assimilation process, and of course, just quickly disbanding my troops as fast as I could. Uh, yeah, quickly, and I also just decided to hand back the provinces to China because, like, I mean, what else? I mean, listen, they were gonna get it back like anyways. So what's the difference, right? So I handed back one of the provinces, but then I think the rest would be returned shortly after. So it doesn't even matter. And then of course I quickly disbanded my troops because I wanted to like regain my money as quickly as possible so I can assimilate quickly as possible. And yeah, okay, China got their territory back. And then this time, China and Kazakhstan pieced out. So now Kazakhstan was broken into like, what, 3 pieces? Like multiple pieces, just broken. And meanwhile, I still had the territory in Macau. And then thing was, at this point, I was like legitimately preparing to invade, like, or not legitimately. I was thinking about invading China, but then as I was assimilating, I pondered about it, right? I pondered invading China right then and there because they were looking pretty weak, right? But then I think later on I decided not to because I decided to like just grow in strength a little bit more before before going after that. So yeah. Meanwhile, Pakistan was still like a vassal of Kazakhstan. So yeah, that was there. They were still a vassal. So then I decided to finally get the revenge on Iran for, you guys remember, if you guys remember from the last episode, they attacked me. Right? So I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna properly finish. I'm gonna finish the vendetta, you could say. And I lined up all my troops on the border right then and there. This time I made sure I was prepared, and even from the other side, all the way in the what do you call Caucasus region, I prepared to launch an attack and I invaded Iran. And like I was pretty confident with this invasion mainly because I stacked the borders so much. But I also like had since the provinces they're not like, how do I say this? They're not straight. Like it's hard to advance straight into them, as what I'm trying to say. So like I had to delay the advance a little bit on the eastern side, not too much though. Meanwhile, on the western side of Iran, I was just continuing to advance. I didn't care. And see, like, look, if you look at the northern part of Iran, right, like the northeastern side of advancement, you'll see people get left back behind. That's what I try to avoid, because like it's better to bring your entire force to the front line rather than, have some people be back. It's better that way because you bring more people to the fight each time. So yeah, that's there. I always try to make sure to do that. Meanwhile, oh yeah. So then, yeah, okay. The jaws of defeat slowly closed in on Iran. Jaws of defeat, jaws of death. I don't know. What do you want to call it? Whatever you want to call it. But yeah, now the jaws of death slowly closed in on Iran as I invaded from two sides. And in this sense, I finally connected. So like this episode so far has just been me connecting the different pieces of my empire. So now I finally brought together the Central Asian empire with my, empire at home. Also, funny enough, war weariness was only 0.5%, which actually surprised me considering how much wars I've been in up until now. So yeah, okay. Anyways, yeah, this entire episode has just been me connecting my empire, connecting Central Asia with the like mainland Mongolia, and then connecting the whole mainland not mainland Mongolia, Central Asian Mongolia, and then connecting the whole thing with the Caucasus as well. So now I formed a pretty decently massive empire. So yeah. And then after this, I decided to get everyone and organize them all in Tehran. And I also made sure to like recruit people from the provinces. And then, of course, of course, there are rebellions. That happens. Trust me, don't worry. These won't. Don't worry, but like these won't be the last rebellions you see in the Mongol Empire. But like as is the Mongol tradition, just like destroy them with absolute brutality. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I organized everyone in Tehran. And so I was looking over at the stuff going on in Syria. For some reason, Russia had annexed like a whole ass chunk out of the Levant. Meanwhile, the other northern half of Syria was like Italy. I don't know. But then as I looked over at East Asia, right, India was literally conquering Vietnam. And I was concerned because like Vietnam was pretty powerful last time I checked. Like Vietnam's pretty powerful in modern day scenario. So India getting access to all those factories would be pretty concerning considering I would have to fight them in the future. So what I did then was, okay, yeah, since I realized enough turns had gone by at this point, I decided to send my army up north to Kazakhstan so that I could finish the entire country off finally. And I even sent them all the way to China, like the Chinese provinces, and recruited a couple extra to invade them, right? And so as they were moving, okay, as they were on their way, funny enough, Kazakhstan asked me for military access for some reason, but like, of course, I didn't agree, of course. So yeah, that went down, right? And I was waiting for the next couple of turns. Qatar declares war on me, nothing happens, of course. And so I also, like, a disease breaks out, but who cares? But then all of a sudden, Iraq invades me. I try to make a peace deal because I'm like, I know I'm not gonna win this. And I try to raise armies too, but that does not work, right? Iran is, because I haven't fully assimilated Iran. And some of them do succeed in holding the Iraqis back, but no, not all of them. And my resistance to their invasion quickly becomes disorganized. I have the money, but I don't have the recruiting ability, right? Like, yet in Iran. And if I could, I would probably do it. And me being me, decided to just invade Kazakhstan as well. And I completely forgot about Pakistan. So for some reason, I decided to get myself involved. Like, look, I was. Listen, I looked at my empire. I was like, you know what? We could probably take a three-way war right now. Actually, I initially said two-way because I completely forgot about Pakistan's existence. But like, yeah, no, I was like, we could take a three-way war, and then decided to just go for it. And then now, because I was frantically trying to defend against Iraq, I wasn't able to really advance into Kazakhstan as much as I wanted to. So most of my movement points ended up being expended trying to recruit to defend Iraq. And I looked at the population. As you can see, you can really tell just how sparsely populated my empire is, right? So I decided to now just fight my enemies, try to fight them like one by one. And so, okay, one thing I did was, of course, try to push back the Iraqis. Considering I just let them invade, I didn't really mind losing the territory. Because, like, look at the size of this, like, empire I got, right? I can afford to lose territory to Iraq. Like, I don't care. Like, I really didn't care. They even start, like, I was literally telling myself this. I'm like, while I was playing, I was just like, I can afford to lose territory. I don't fucking give a shit. They can go massacre. They can go massacre the people there in the provinces they take. I don't care. I got, like, what, millions of people left, right? So so while that was going on, I decided to finish off Kazakhstan and Pakistan properly, to make sure, I could take them out. And of course, these wars were no challenge whatsoever because I had prepared for them. Meanwhile, the Iraqi conflict, not so much, right? And I was taking my time, trying to decide the movements and all that during this war. And so both conflicts raged. Iraqis continued to bring in, like, waves and waves of people. I tried to fight back with my own human waves. That didn't work too well. Meanwhile, in the north, I decided to even send back some forces. Like, I decided to cut back some forces from the invasion of Kazakhstan because I wanted to, because I wanted to, defend against Iraq, right? And meanwhile, the invasion of Kazakhstan itself was going, of course, splendid, completely fine. And and then meanwhile, the Chinese provinces held by Kazakhstan, I was able to basically just defeat them over there. Meanwhile, over in so again, I basically just focused on taking over territory from Kazakhstan mainly, and that succeeded. At some point I even started disbanding units, mainly because I wanted to have money to recruit people to fight in Iraq, not in Iraq, Iraq, right? And the war with Iraq itself was going pretty well, actually. Like, not well. It's not going good by any means. But also, I remember Pakistan existed again. I forgot about, bro. I don't know. Okay, like, they're just 4 provinces at this point. Like, I just keep forgetting, and then they just attack me after, like, getting ready for like 10 turns, right? So meanwhile, I was still at war with Iraq. They were mostly repelling my attacks, and then they were counterattacking. Meanwhile, I had completely conquered Kazakhstan, and then I proceeded to completely annex them. This time it was complete annexation, of course. So I did it to finish the job, and so then once I realized that I didn't need those troops anymore, I started quick. Oh yeah, and also India and China were at war, which was perfect for me because now both my biggest potential rivals were now at war, which was amazing, right? That actually benefited me a lot. I was kind of happy, but like at the same time, if one of them ended up winning out, I would like be at danger. So what I did was I got Australia to declare war on India, so that they'd be a thorn in India's side, which would prevent them from completely dominating China. Because like China having lost so much territory was actually pretty weak compared to India. Now, of course, I'm pretty sure if I left them alone, they would have lasted long enough, like as it is, because of their population, the sheer population that they have. But I decided not to take that chance and just got Australia to do it. Meanwhile, yeah, Iraq continued to only ever further advance. Meanwhile, I was faced with a revolt in the Chinese slash Kazakh, I don't know what to call it. Chinese Kazakhstan territory? I don't know, but I'm just say Chinese because it's basically China. And so I was faced with a revolt over there. Meanwhile, the Iraqis continued to push into Iran. They even pushing into Tehran at some point. And I was like, hey, you know what? Let me pull a tactical move here and just cut them off from all their resources. And unfortunately, right at that province where I could have cut them off, they had troops there, and so they basically pushed back my the troops that were supposed to cut them off. And then I tried once again to cut them off, and I think this time I ended up succeeding, but they reconnected once again. And right now it's just annoying, so I'm just like, you know what? I'm out of here. I'm peacing out. And then I peaced out. And since I was so overpowered, I could peace out for whatever I wanted. And I also I exploited a game mechanic where I just released the UAE as a vassal and got war reparations, because I could select all my provinces and then deselect them and then get all the star points from that. I don't know, I've just learned that I'm able to do that, and like you're just able to do that if you're if you're like way more powerful than the other nation. You can do that no matter what the no matter what the like on the ground situation is. Like Iraq had so much territory more than me, but I still was able to turn the peace deal into something that's like favorable for me because I'm the Mongol Empire and I'm massive. So yeah. Anyways, India and China were just in chaos at this point. With like Australia was actually doing a great job at invading India. Okay, they were actually doing a very good job, and so I just looked at all that chaos. I'm like, you know what? I'm not touching that. I'm just gonna let them fight it out. Meanwhile, I looked mainly over to like Turkey and I'm looking over to Europe and all, because I realized that was gonna be my next destination. So now I reorganized all my troops in Tehran again. I mean, Tehran, I chose Tehran as basically the hotspot for all my troop organizations. And I sent them all down to proceed to just, wait, hold on. Oh yeah, first I assimilate, of course. Right, because Iraq took so many Iranian provinces, I had to assimilate them over again, because I lost it, right? So, okay, disease, whatever. Anyways, then I decided to prepare an invasion force, mainly in the Caucasus, right? Because the Caucasus was mainly my recruiting ground for the Middle East, right? I decided to prepare an invasion force, the likes of which Iraq would never have seen ever since like 2003, I guess. I don't know. Okay, sorry. Anyways, I know, okay, that war was messed up, let's be real. Anyways, as I was saying, right, I prepared like 10,000 people on each province and was lining up the forces to prepare to avenge the war that they did on me. And so I prepared for a war on Iraq, which will happen in the next episode. So see you guys then.